Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'll just ask that someone support me in letting people in while I'm making this announcement. But this is a super important announcement about a campaign that will hopefully be on the ballot in November. They are in the signature gathering portion of the campaign. And this is the Yes for Affordable Childcare and Preschool in Monterey County campaign. It is the Safe, Affordable, Quality Childcare Act that would improve access to affordable childcare and early education for children in Monterey County. And as most of you know, research shows that 90% of a child's brain develops before the age of 5, but unfortunately only 1 in 4 children in Monterey County is ready for kindergarten because so many families in our county lack access to childcare and early education. So this is an act that is a parcel tax, a modest $49 per parcel tax that would raise $5.5 million annually to prepare children for school via increasing access to childcare and early education. And this would be for working families, single parents, and others who currently do not have access. So I can tell you more about it offline. We can have more conversations about it, but the Democratic Women of Monterey County, with your support, because we raise money from our members, has been able to be an early supporter financially to get this on the ballot. And we are also going to be as supportive as possible collecting signatures. So I will drop the website URL into the chat so you can check it out. You'll be hearing about this a lot more soon, and I really hope we see this on the November ballot. It's in line with our party platform, and I think could make great strides towards providing the kind of support for families with children that is desperately needed in Monterey County. So with that, back to you, Nicole, and I'll again drop the URL into the chat.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you for bringing this to our attention too. And yeah, like Kate said, DWMC will be an early supporter of this initiative. It's right in line with our mission and our values. And I mean, as a mom of a 3-year-old, I can definitely say the struggle is real in Monterey County with early childhood education. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about it, and stay tuned for more information. I'll just reintroduce myself for those who are joining us now. My name is Nicole Hollingsworth, and I'm the president of the Democratic Women of Monterey County. And today you're joining us for our Sheriff Candidate Forum. So today we'll run a little bit differently than our usual webinar luncheon format. And we're also we're continuing our new candidate forum styles. So the DWMC board has taken the time to interview each Democratic candidate for sheriff via Zoom. And each candidate was asked the same questions live and given the same amount of time to respond to each question. So today we're going to play those interviews for you. And today is also the first time that those interviews are going to be made public. And so after today's forum, since they're recorded, we will post those interviews to our website so that you can go back and view them at your leisure, take notes, or share them with your friends who weren't able to be present today as well. And I also want to let you know that today we have a special bonus interview for you. That's what I'm calling it today. So we also took the time to interview Annette E. Steck, who is running for Monterey County School Board Trustee Area 1. And in what's a special election that will also be on your June ballot this year. So Annette is running as the only Democratic candidate against an inexperienced Republican candidate. So you'll also get to learn more about her today. And I believe she'll also be here at the end to answer any of your questions that you might have for her if you want to get in touch with her as well. So today, after we play all the interviews, you will have a chance to ask questions of the candidates who are present today. And we always, as usual, ask that you put your questions in the chat so that we can make sure to get to as many questions as possible. And if you need assistance using this chat feature or asking your question, just let myself know, Lisa Berkeley, Kate Daniels, we're here to help you with all that tech today. And if we're unable to get to your question today, I just wanted to let everybody else know we're also making an effort to inform our membership when other organizations are hosting candidate forums or interviews or events. So if you're a part of another organization hosting a candidate forum in the future, feel free to post that information in the chat or let us know about it so that we can help you just get that information out into the county as well. In fact, I know the League of Women Voters also has an upcoming candidate forum. So I will try to post that information in the chat as well. Or if anyone else is here from the League of Women Voters, feel free to post that as well. So we're just hoping, again, today is just one of many opportunities that you'll have to hear from your Democratic candidates and all the candidates. If I think League of Women Voters does all the candidates, but as the Democratic Women of Monterey County, we only endorse Democratic candidates. So, and I think that would be it for my announcements. So again, we have an active chat feature. Please feel free to use it today. And without further ado, let's get started. Lisa.
All right. I'm on a Zoom.
Good afternoon. This is the recorded interview with Joe Moses, who is a candidate for sheriff of Monterey County. I'm Karen Kelly, and my sister Democratic Women of Monterey County board member is Lisa Berkeley. Lisa is responsible for timekeeping and for recording. So we're going to begin with candidate Moses introducing himself for 1 minute, and then I'll follow with 4 questions. The candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each question. So Joe, are you ready to start with your introductory remarks for 1 minute?
I sure am.
Okay.
All right. Well, my name is Joe Moses. I've been with the Monterey County Sheriff's Office for 27 years. I've worked every division through every promotion throughout the Sheriff's Office, and I have a very deep understanding of our operation and what has gone well and what needs to be improved. I also have a good relationship with all of our communities within Monterey County and our government agencies as well. And as we move forward into this campaign and into a new administration, my platform, which I've been developing for a long time, is really in lockstep with the reimagining policing initiative that this group has come up with. I look at implementing and taking meaningful action to address mental health crisis in our communities. I also look at providing equal opportunities for all people and giving them a chance to be successful. And I also want to address overcome the implicit bias that is present within our communities. So with that in mind, I look forward to having this conversation and taking a deep dive into my platform and what I bring to the Sheriff's Office.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Are you ready for your first question?
I am.
Okay, so here's the first question. You'll have 3 minutes to answer this. So response time in rural areas has been identified as a serious problem in the county. What do you see as the necessary elements to provide better protection and better response time to these communities?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question, Karen. It really hits on my third priority that I have as my platform. We need to take a look at the Sheriff's Office because we identify so heavily as that law enforcement branch or portion of the Sheriff's Office. It's really only about 35% of what we actually do. The other 65% is about the services that we're mandated to provide, such as the county jail, our civil division, our coroner's division, all the databases and IT that we have to maintain for all the police departments within the county. And so when I talk about efficiency of operations, I'm looking at, we tend to concentrate on that 35% of the operation and identify with that law enforcement portion. But what we really need to do is, because of that, we have a tendency to push our badge staff into positions that may be better covered by civilian staff that have gone to school, have been specially trained, and that's the career path they want to go down. The example that I have is the coroner's division. We look at the coroner's division, and we have detectives that do death investigation. And as a part of that death investigation, we really don't need to have the full-blown detectives, law enforcement, doing that investigation. We have people that go to school to learn death investigation, forensic autopsy, and that kind of thing. And that's a career path they want to choose. So by hiring those directly into the sheriff's office, into the coroner's division, that's going to free up those other detectives and have them do that more traditional law enforcement. So when we talk about coverage in the county areas and our rural areas, by pushing those positions of law enforcement, having them concentrate on that traditional 35% law enforcement part that we are mandated to cover, we will then be able to increase our staffing on patrol, get more people into those positions and into those county rural areas. And I also say that we also need to do more of that traditional community policing as well. Get our deputies out of the patrol cars into our communities, talking and building that relationship with our communities. That's really what we need to do, and we need to continue to focus on. And recruitment. Recruitment is huge. We need to continue to recruit and use different techniques. We can't recruit like we did 20 years ago. We're just not going to appeal to the people that the younger generation that we need to bring into this field. And so by addressing our recruitment issues and taking a different approach to how we do recruitment and appealing to those that younger generation, we'll be able to build up our numbers and fill some of those vacant spots that we currently have. And thereby, once again, as I say, we'll be able to push people into patrol and to be able to interact with our communities in a way that is productive for everybody. And to build that relationship, we need to continue to build that relationship. So in essence, that's putting the right people in the right positions is what's going to, with the right qualifications, what's going to help us with that, with covering the county.
All right, well, thank you very much for answering that question about response times in the county. So our next question, here we go. Domestic abuse and violence are a problem in the county. Many women in underserved populations find it difficult to access the protective services. How will you improve access to the public safety protection for at-risk women? You have 3 minutes.
Once again, that's a great question and something that we all need to be very concerned about, making sure that we take care of our victims, that the victims are a part of our overreaching system, and that we support them so that we can take the criminals off of the street and have them go through the system so that we are able to take care of our victims. One of the things that I've done recently, I went back to Tennessee with behavioral health and with our programs manager, Charles Da Silva. And we went there to look at behavioral health, the behavioral health center that their sheriff's office actually built as a part of their jail, to try to get some of these people that with mental health crisis, get them the necessary help that they need, and on the medications and on the on the counseling that they're needed, so they're able to transition into the community. But as a part of that, we also visited a family safety center that was built by Nashville Police Department in conjunction with a community-based organization and their victim advocacy people. And that was something that I want to bring to Monterey County, something I hadn't expected to see there. But whenever I saw it, I said, well, this is a great opportunity. It brings the services to those victims. It gives them the space, the safe space where they can come and they can make those reports, or they can just get the counseling or the help with the legal system that they need. So I would like to see that come to Monterey County. We're already working with the DA's office and Janine Paccioni to look at trying to build something like that in South County, in King City, and expand it to Monterey and Salinas, because that's really what we need to do. We need to make sure that we take care of our victims, that we advocate for them. In addition, as the captain of the jail, I have been able to bring in some of those victim advocacy groups to speak with our incarcerated people before they get released, having them see what the other side is, what their actions have done to other people, and really make them feel what their victims feel, and that so that they're educated, that what their actions just doesn't benefit them, but that has a cost to some other people and what that cost really is. So again, as I talk about, I'm a huge advocate for victims' rights. I'm a huge advocate for making sure that our victims feel supported as they go through some of these very, very difficult times. I mean, it's not easy, especially when you talk about domestic violence, of coming forth and trying to talk about the issues that they're facing and the adversities. But being able to be in a safe space so that they feel free to do that. I mean, it's very upsetting to the family. It's very difficult to do. So whatever we can do to help with that and to continue that pushing forward is what I advocate for. And I look for new and innovative ideas to continue pushing in that direction.
All right, well, thank you for that answer to the question about domestic violence services for women. Our next question is about money. The Monterey County Sheriff's Department receives one of the largest allocations in the county budget. Yet year after year, the department has stated that it needs more to fill its staffing needs. What will you do as sheriff to ensure that the department's mandated coverage and staffing needs are met within the annual budget allocation that you receive? Again, 3 minutes.
Well, again, that's an excellent question. So thank you for that. The budget is always a big issue. As a public safety agency, I don't think we'll ever have a big enough budget to be able to do all the things that we want to do. But one of the things I do bring to the table is looking outside of our budget to find those other alternative funding sources to address some of the special projects and the other things that we need to do within the Sheriff's Office without pulling from the general fund. One of the things I'll point to as an example is the MAT, the Medication Assisted Treatment Program that we are bringing to Monterey County Jail, so that those that are incarcerated are able to start on the medication and the counseling regimen that they're going to need to be successful when they get released, and transfer them into a community-based program so that they can continue with their treatment. To do that, we found funding and secured funding at the state from the state level. Why not Monterey County dip into those funds instead of another county? So we were able to do that and be in conjunction with, in collaboration with Monterey County Behavioral Health. One of the things that I had to do was advocate for a deputy position in that, get a position that unfunded, which will be funded by this grant. So I went before the Board of Supervisors and I explained to them and made the promise that if you fund this position with the funding that we had from the outside, if that funding goes away, we'll no longer have the position. So what that does, it does two things. It builds that trust with the Board of Supervisors, because they know that I'm only going to come to them for money when I absolutely need the money. And two, it incentivizes my staff, who are very much supportive of the MAT program, to go outside and find that alternative funding source instead of taking from our general fund. But to answer your question more completely, when we start talking about budgeting and going back to the budget, we really have to take a close look at why we need the money. As I've told the Board of Supervisors several times, I should not be going before you and asking for more money, more positions, more funding, if I'm not able to explain to you in a way that you understand or your constituents understand. If I can't do that, I probably have no business asking for that money. So looking for those alternative funding sources, looking at where, if we need to cut costs where we can, but at the same time, we have to maintain our services that we currently provide. 85% of our budget goes to fixed costs, mostly the salary and benefits. Not much that we can do about that. We need to continue to support our staff and make sure that our recruiting, we're able to recruit at a competitive level with our surrounding agencies. So by making those promises and building that relationship with the Board of Supervisors, we'll be able to then, continue in that direction and get the funding that we absolutely need to have.
All right, well, thank you very much for answering that question about the Sheriff's Office budget. The final question is, this is about the Monterey County Jail. So the Monterey County Jail is often in the news and appears to be rife with problems both pre and post Hernandez versus County of Monterey. What changes would you implement both to the management and the operation of the jail in order to improve conditions at the jail? Again, 3 minutes.
Well, thank you. I don't know if it'll be a lot more than 3-minute conversation, however, to get that conversation started. As captain of the jail for the last 2 years, I have intimate knowledge of what is happening in the jail and what we're doing to fix the issues that were there pre-Hernandez. So the Hernandez settlement agreement, I think it's very important to distinguish that it's a settlement agreement and not a consent decree. We do not have a monitor sitting in our jail, a federal monitor, watching our day-to-day operation. We have monitors that come in on a periodic basis once every 6 months or so to see how we're progressing. And I am proud to say that as under my watch as captain, we have gone from a compliance rate of between 60-70% all the way up to into the 90 percentile now. 95, 96% were compliance with the settlement agreement. And we continue to make great strides. We have done a horrible job as a sheriff's office of advertising the good things that we do. So often we see in the news and on the newspapers about the negatives that happen when things happen, such as an escape or a suicide in the jail, then that we get that negative publicity. But on a daily basis, the men and women that work in the jail are doing an outstanding job, and we need to advertise that more. There's always room for improvement, and we continue to improve every day. I'll talk about the escape. If we have an escape that occurs, we immediately, after the investigation is completed and everything, we sit down as a team, as a committee, and we take a look at what we can do better. And we do make improvements. When we have a suicide in the jail, we continue to make those improvements. We look at where we can make changes. And we've made a lot of good, positive changes in the jail and in our operation. And we'll continue to do that. As sheriff, if I'm elected, I will continue to advocate for the jail to continue to improve our operation and what we do. And I think a big part of that is the programs, giving people the tools to be successful on the outside. We have all kinds of programs that we've brought into the jail: educational, vocational. We talk about substance abuse, mental health, parenting classes, anger management courses. So we bring all that into the jail because the idea is once somebody leaves our facility, that they don't come back. Stop that cycle of incarceration. Whatever we can do to make that a reality is what we want to do. I like to tell my staff, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. Will that ever happen? Probably not in our lifetimes, but let's have that something that's in the back of the mind, that's the vision, that's going forward, so that people can make those differences in their lives and they don't get back into the cycle of that incarceration. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you for answering that question about jail operations. That was our last question. So we'll end with your closing statement. You have 1 minute for that.
Yes, thank you. As a closing statement, I just want to say that we have implicit biases. All of us have implicit biases. An important part of what I want to train our deputies and our staff is to be cognizant of those implicit biases that we have. I know that many of you may have implicit biases about not wanting to have another white male as a sheriff in Monterey County. But I would think that we need to acknowledge that. We need to move past that. And we need to hire somebody or elect somebody, that based on their experience, based on their vision for the future, based on what they bring to the table. And so we need to take a very close look at who the candidates are, what they're about, and get beyond some of these biases that we all have. So with that, I look forward to having these difficult conversations. I look forward to having the unspoken conversations as we move into the future. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you very much for seeking Democratic Women of Monterey County's endorsement and for informing our members about your candidacy. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
This is a recorded interview with Tina Nieto, who is a candidate for Sheriff of Monterey County. I'm Josie Wilson, and my sister DWMC board member is Lisa Berkeley. She'll be responsible for timekeeping and recording. We're going to begin with Tina introducing herself for 1 minute. Then I'll follow with 4 questions and the candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each. Tina, please go ahead and make your introductory remarks.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for letting me address your group. I'm Tina Nieto, and I'm running for Monterey County Sheriff. And I believe that under my leadership that I can bring new accountable leadership so we can make Monterey County safer for everyone. I am a trusted law chief with over 33 years of law enforcement experience. I've been called on to take over struggling law enforcement organizations where I've restored trust, brought diverse interests together, and reduced crime and homelessness through community policing efforts. I've also worked to turn around departments that are struggling with recruitment and reduce violent and property crimes. And the last 15 years as a law executive, I've done that in every organization that I've worked. I began my career with the Los Angeles Police Department. So I have a broad range of experience and I want to be your next Monterey County Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, here's the first question. Response time to rural areas has been identified as a serious problem in the county. What do you see as the necessary elements to provide better protection and response time to these communities?
So your response, I've been talking to the members that live both in the unincorporated, both the North, South County, Central County. This is an ongoing issue. It's been going on for years. And my plan to restore, just measuring it, is to bring metrics to the sheriff's office to look at where are we, what do we need. One of the things that I can tell you that I know is that the staffing in the patrol divisions is low, and that's because of the Hernandez lawsuit, and deputies are being taken from the field to put back into the jails. So I think it's very incumbent on the next sheriff to be able to meet the mandates of the Hernandez settlement, not only for best practices, but year after year, we're spending millions of dollars being under this settlement agreement. And so it's the right thing to do for the communities. And that way we can put deputies back in the field. My plan is to bring an accountability deputy to each of the areas, not just an advisory board, but somebody that's going to be responsible, whether that be a supervisor or a deputy that's going to be responsive to local quality of life issues. When you talk to people that live in these issues, it's not just crime, it just really is the quality of life. It's illegal dumping, it's the homeless issue, it's loud parties, it's vehicles that are just being abandoned in the area. And so, and this is all the result of a lack of deputies in those areas be able to be there. And there's also a brazen property crime that's going on because there aren't deputies assigned to the area. One of the other things that I want to bring is establish what I call community advisory boards, not what the sheriff's has now, that's more of a foundation, it's not an advisory board, but local advisory boards that really are my eyes and ears to the community to let me know, hey, this is going on in our communities. I think that's real important that local people have a voice and they have somebody that will listen to their concerns, and that we work collaboratively together to work on these issues, these quality of life issues. So I really want to reduce some of the office time or the deputy's time on reducing these problems, the illegal dumping, the abandoned. I lost my sound. Should I just keep talking?
There's no audio. Lisa. we
Services.
lost connection.
How will you improve access to the public safety protection for at-risk women?
Oh, this is such an important subject. You know, our underserved populations, it gets back to trust. You know, one of the things that the Sheriff's Department needs to work on is the trust of these underserved communities. It's not that the men and women of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office don't care. The men and women of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office are actually very caring, hardworking individuals. I really believe this gets back to the executive leadership of not putting priorities on these or ignoring those populations that are victimized in this way. In fact, the pandemic, if you look at the numbers, the pandemic, and when it comes to domestic violence, is worse. And it's just not domestic violence with women, it's domestic violence that are affecting our families. It's issues that are affecting our youth. And these are issues that are traumatizing entire populations of our community because they're not getting the service. I already sit on some of the boards that deal with these issues. I'm actually on the liaison for the rape crisis, and it dwells into some of the domestic violence issues that kind of lead to some of these really horrendous crimes. I really do believe that we need to be talking to our nonprofits more, collaborating with them, making sure that when the deputies respond to these issues or when we're made aware of these issues, that we're getting the resources for the victims of domestic abuse. And it's both men and women that can be victims of domestic violence. And so we also have to get out of the mindset it's just the women that are becoming the victims, but anybody can become a victim of this horrible crime. So we need to be making sure that our deputies are educated about what the resources are in our county, being advocates, advocating for more resources when our office sees that there is a lack of resources for these underserved communities. And really just being part of the process and not just the people running in to take a report. And that gets back to community policing. It gets back to the entire culture of the Sheriff's Department. Your leadership really needs to set the tone from the top about compassion, about empathy, about doing the right thing. And when our deputies fail in these areas, and sometimes they do, me as a leader needs to ensure that myself and my leadership team do hold those deputies accountable. And when I say holding them accountable, it might be something as simple as training. It might be something worse, but my experience, it's usually just training. I think that's the basis for providing better services to these underserved communities that are suffering from these horrible situations that have been just expanded because of the isolation that the pandemic has caused. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3. The Monterey County Sheriff's Department receives one of the largest allocations in the county budget. Yet year after year, the department has stated that it needs more to fill its staffing needs. What will you do as sheriff to ensure the department's mandated coverage and staffing needs are met within the annual budget allocation that you receive?
So I've been in charge of budgets again. I've been a law enforcement executive for the last 14, almost 15 years now. And I'll be honest with you, I never got a budget where I thought it was enough. But here's what I do understand about budgets is that you have to work whatever your budget is. I'm one of the few probable police chiefs that over the last 4 years as the chief of police for Marina, I actually saved the city $3 million that went back into the general fund because most of the Monterey County Sheriff's Department is funded out of what we call a general fund. But to stay within budget, let me give you a little bit of perspective. I'm a police performance auditor. I'm a trained police performance auditor, which includes a lot of background in accounting. So I understand accounting. I've had several classes, both through my master's program and then also being part of the consent decree team from the large city that I came from that successfully helped that city move beyond the consent decree to meet best practices. But the budget is a very complex issue. If you can't recruit people in, if you keep spending money elsewhere because the morale is low, you're always going to be asking for more money, because your monies are going to places where you could have saved to bring these people in. So the budget issue, in order to make the budget issue, it's really complex. Our department, the Sheriff's Department, needs to take a very deep dive into what our recruitment and retention looks like. Right now, the Sheriff's Office is losing more people than they can retain. That costs taxpayers money because you're paying for training, you're paying for new equipment every time you bring deputies onto an agency. So there's a stopgap that is meeting the budget. If we work on that issue, we can move forward. The other thing is the low morale. We're going to keep shelling out. It's a dam that the water keeps spilling out of. If the leadership can't bring up the morale in the Sheriff's Department, I think there are issues with the Sheriff's Department, with talking to many of the deputies and the civilian personnel that work there currently. I believe that I'm that leader that can bring in fresh eyes, a fresh look at how we're dealing with that issue, how we're holding people accountable, how we're building trust with the community. The budget, you need somebody who understands line item by line item. I'm not the expert. I need to make sure that my budgeting office is well trained, but I'm going to have those ongoing conversations with my budgeting office in order to meet whatever our budget is. And if I have to make any adjustments, I'm going to be able to explain why, not just I want this to the County Board of Supervisors. It's very important to keep the line of communications open when you're looking at budget issues. But those are just some of the things that I plan to do as your next sheriff to meet whatever the budget given to us, that we meet those mandates and provide the service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the last question. The Monterey County Jail is often in the news and appears to be rife with problems both pre and post Hernandez versus County of Monterey. What changes would you implement both to the management and the operation of the jail in order to improve conditions at the jail?
So one of the things that I stated early on, but the Board of Supervisors have stated that they're going to wait, is I actually support oversight. Yeah, I support an inspector, a true inspector general, not just somebody in name, but oversight. And oversight is because of transparency. I believe there's a lot of issues with our jail right now. Again, not because of the men and women and the deputies that work there, but it gets back to trust. The community doesn't trust the Sheriff's Department, or at least there's a segment of the community that doesn't trust the Sheriff's Office. And I really do believe this is because of the lack of transparency. I, as your sheriff, have made a commitment to be very transparent with our stakeholders. That means the County Board of Supervisors. That means the different interest groups. And I'm going to let people know if we mess up.
Lisa, we lost sound again. Lisa Berkeley, we've once again lost sound.
I'm sure I'm saying something amazing. I just want to let everybody know.
My apologies, everyone. We are trying to figure out what is happening on the back end that is leading to the sound going out. You can just give us a second. I'm so sorry, everyone. I have a feeling that our host may have muted her sound, asking her to unmute now. And that black square in front of Tina would be my asking her to unmute right now.
So that's
And
some of my plan in order to regain the trust of the community and fix some of the issues that are going on in our correctional facilities. Thank you.
We'll end with your closing statement. You'll have 1 minute.
Okay. Again, I just want to let the board, I'm running because I really want to make a difference for our county. I think it's time for new accountable leadership that's transparent, that's collaborative with our different groups, that has a multi-layered understanding of our community. I come from a poor Hispanic family, and in my own family, we dealt with things that like racial profiling. I shared the story of my dad, being stopped by the police every night. So I'm the candidate that comes from a perspective that I understand some of the things that our underrepresented communities are coming through. I believe very dearly that I'm the most qualified candidate running for sheriff that can really tackle the issues that are going on with our sheriff's office right now. And also I have the critical thinking skills to tackle future challenges that our sheriff's office may face. I thank the board for their time, and I hope that they endorse me for the next Monterey County sheriff. And I think it would just behoove the entire community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very, very much, Tina.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Lisa Berkeley, DWMC board member, here with Annette Yeastek, who is running for the Monterey County Board of Education Trustee Area 1. Trustee Area 1 encompasses all of Carmel Unified School District, all of Pacific Grove Unified School District, all of Big Sur Unified School District, and about half of the city of Monterey, which is part of Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. In today's discussion, I'm going to give Annette 1 minute to introduce herself, and then I have 4 questions, each of which she'll have 3 minutes to respond to, and then she will conclude with a 1 minute statement. And on that, Annette, thank you very much for being with us, and let's get it started. So why don't you go ahead, and I'm going to take myself off screen and turn it all over to you. Okay.
Thanks so much for having me here, Lisa, and the DWMC board. My name is Annette Yeastek, and I am running for the Monterey County Board of Education because I have a lot of experience working on the Carmel Unified School Board. I was on that board for 27 years, from 1993 to 2020 when I retired. And I also work in the area of public finance, where I work with local governments to do bond issues and other types of financings, as well as their budgets. And I work on that, that profession for my entire professional life. I've worked exclusively with school districts since '96. I'm also an instructor for the California School Boards Association, and I've taught over 1,000 school district trustees and superintendents in the area of governance. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Okay, thank you, Annette. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next question, or rather our first question. And hold on, I'm going to just set the timer. Okay, so what motivates you to want to become a school board member? Please describe the role and responsibility in your own words. You'll have 3 minutes.
I would like to work at the county board level. As I said earlier, I've been on the Carmel, I was on the Carmel School Board for 27 years. I've dedicated my entire volunteer life as an elected official to school districts. And I think I can help at the county level as well. The County Board of Education operates quite a bit differently than a school district does, but it's an important role as well. They work hand in hand with the county superintendent of education to help oversee all of the school districts in the county, and also to run the county schools, which educate about 250 students in the county of Monterey, some of whom are the most vulnerable students in our county. They are the ones who have special needs. They also are low income. They're the families, students from migrant worker families, as well as homeless families, are all covered by the county. And I think I can use my expertise and experience, having been on the Carmel School Board, to help the county board with their mission as well. Thanks.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, moving on to our second question. What is your vision for education in Monterey County? You'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Wow, that's a big question. I'm not sure I have my own exact vision other than to support the mission of the county board and the county superintendent itself. I'm actually filling in a spot on the county board that was vacated, was created by the death of an existing board member. And I'm just hoping to make sure that the County Board of Education is able to fulfill its mission, again, to help the most vulnerable students in our county. And I am actually really looking forward to that because I believe that the students who need the most help, the families that need the most help, are the ones who deserve my particular help and support. And I was able to do that at Carmel Unified. We have a very diverse group of students and families in my district, from the very, very wealthy to the basically homeless students. And I was a big proponent for those who needed the most help. And at the county level, I can do this countywide, which is wonderful. And I think there are just so many more opportunities to help families that are in need. And I hope that I can do so. I think there's the area of homelessness and the amount of homelessness that has existed in our particular county has grown tremendously over the years. And I hope that we can help the students through the county board in this area. And so one area, as I said, is the homeless students. And I do work on this through my work on another board called the Community Human Services Board. And that is a joint powers authority made up of all the local cities as well as school districts. And we are working on homelessness there too. I'm hoping to help on the county board side with the students of that population. And and we also do the court schools in the county Office of Education. And so I very much like to help those students as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Annette. Okay. Let's see. Now we're going to move on to our next question, which you actually just touched a little bit on.
Okay.
What kind of relationship should a school district board have with its community and with its parents and family?
Well, that is a really important thing and a big issue right now. I think that I have always been a huge proponent of making sure that parents and families are involved in the education of their students. And I've made it a point when I was on the Carmel School Board to go out and meet with particularly our far-reaching populations. And in Carmel, we have a 600 square mile area that our school district covered, the largest geographic area in the county of Monterey. And we had, as I said earlier, a very diverse group of families, but particularly those families that have parents who work multiple jobs. I think it's super important for us to go out to them instead of them having to come to us. We always tried hard to go out to those communities, having board meetings at least once a year down in Big Sur, out in Kashawa, etc. And I would hope to do the same with the county board to make sure that people are being heard, and sometimes the most busy families are the ones who need the most help. And so us reaching out to them is really important to me, because I think that people who need the help ought to be supported as much as possible. And they don't always have the time to spend full time on their child's education. And it's important for us to do the reaching out. So I think that's important. I also think that parents are not the only important piece of this puzzle. I do think that having the staff and our teachers involved in making decisions is really important. And that was always important to me at Carmel Unified. And I would want to continue that, because those are the professionals who are working on the educational system, and they're teaching our students every day. We need to make sure that they're involved in helping decide the direction that we go in for education, and getting their feedback is so important. So that's it, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, moving on to our final question. Why are the school boards necessary? You've got 3 minutes to respond.
Well, I think school boards are one of the most important parts of our governmental system. It's local control at its best. You know, at a local school district, you have the opportunity to make decisions on the policies that affect the children in your area. And the key to that is that every school district has a different population and different needs. We have, again, you know, I'm sorry that all my examples are from Carmel Unified, but when you've been on the board as long as I have, that's what I know. And I'll tell you that we made some really important changes on a local level that other school districts might not have made those same decisions. And we were able to make those changes and shore up our curriculum so that we were much more supportive of our students' post high school graduation goals. And so we were able to change our graduation requirements so that students who were either college bound got in immediately with their high school graduation requirements, and or if they didn't go on to those, that they had the skills needed to go on to meet the jobs that would allow them to go into the trades. And by having things like computer skills and allowing them to interface directly into those types of post-graduation requirements was really important. And that was something we didn't have when we first started at Carmel Unified. And those were changes that were made at the local level. Not every school district chooses to go in that direction. We did, and we became one of the best school districts as rated under a number of ways in the state of California. And I'm very proud of that happened while I was on the school board. And it just having the local control to make decisions and to be able to support our families in the best way possible is really key to being on a school board. And that's why school boards are so important. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on that note, we've answered all of our questions, the 4 questions, and then we'll just give you a 1-minute time to go ahead and give us a summary as to why you're running. Thank you.
Okay, well, I am running for the Monterey County Board of Education because I think I can hit the ground running, help the county board and the county superintendent in moving forward what needs to be done for education in our county. Again, I've worked in this field of finance for public finance, but particularly school districts and county offices of education for the entirety of my professional career. I also was on that Carmel school board for a long time, and I helped make the Carmel Unified School District one of the best performing districts in the state. And I hope to bring that expertise and experience to the county level. I'd really appreciate your support, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, for your responses, and we look forward to seeing you in person and wish you the best of luck in your candidacy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate your taking your time to do this for me. Okay. Thanks everyone for hanging in there with our tech difficulties. So first, to make things right, Tina, you were answering our first question, which was response time to rural areas has been identified as a serious problem in the county. What do you see as the necessary elements to provide better protection and response to these communities? And I'm going to give you 2 minutes because I think we got the first part of that and then we missed the last part of your answer. So please. And I'm so sorry.
No worries. And I don't even know if it's going to be the same answer, to be perfectly honest, because it is such a complex issue. But one of the big issues is recruitment and retention. In order to make the settlement, as the Hernandez settlement, as I was saying, they have to keep moving deputies back into the jail to fulfill the mandates for the federal monitor or for the monitor. And just to let my opponent know, a federal monitor doesn't sit in and watch every day. They just come in and do an audit and say if you're doing your stuff or not. That's what monitors do. I guess they don't have 24 hours a day to sit in the jails. But anyways, one big thing is recruitment and retention. And I can tell you from talking with the deputies, especially the deputies in the jail, recently I was just endorsed by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. They have endorsed me to be their next sheriff because they too believe that there are a lot of things that need to be improved that's not happening right now in the jail. And morale is something they talked about a lot. And morale is usually has to do with their leadership. They talked a lot about the leadership and whether this is true or not. The things they said is they talked about the ethics of the leadership, burying their head in the sand, don't effectively challenge them. They believe there's low integrity. There's negative behaviors, apathy to roles in the sheriff's, unfair treatment, not a transparent system. And so this is a big, deep problem that the next sheriff needs to take a look at. And that's why I believe it needs to be somebody who comes in with fresh eyes, not somebody that's part of the problem. And so do the deputies. The deputies that work in the jails believe retention recruitment is a big part of it and needs to be worked on. So thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. And I think you touched upon the last question just now too, which was what changes would you implement to both the management and operation of the jail in order to improve conditions at the jail? So if you want to just give another, just 1 minute, and then we'll take questions and we'll let Joe talk live today too.
All right, thank you, Nicole. One thing I want to add that I think I probably talked about is that this won't be the first agency that I've walked in where they're dealing with a lot of issues. When I came into Marina Police Department, there were always morale issues, retention, recruitment, because they're not the best paid agency on the peninsula either. And we did a transformational change program. It took about 2 to 3 years to do it. It's a living program where we looked at the issues that were driving some of the underlying causes to what was going on in Marina, why we were at the place that we were at. As a result of this program, we're a fully staffed agency, one of the few, if not the only, in the peninsula. The morale is high and we've measured that with instruments. It's an ongoing process. We actually provide coaching to our supervisors to work on issues that have been identified that they can improve on. And we did that using what they call a 360 interview process. And next month, we're actually going into a team building workshop. Again, we found funding outside of the department to make this happen, to work with our leadership team so we can keep sharpening the knives, as they say, Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits, to keep working on issues and getting better and better.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tina. And again, really sorry for the tech difficulties. I mean, I think we're all just done with Zoom at this point, but we're still here. We're still in a pandemic.
If I'd known that, I would have written up really good answers and I would have.
Well, the good news is they were recording, so we are going to post them on our Facebooks or on our Facebook and on our website so that everybody can see them. And so now what we're going to do is if you have a question for a candidate, please post it in the chat. And remember, Annette's here too. And so she's happy to answer your questions as well. And particularly want to let Joe answer a question live today as well. So let's see here. Any questions for any of our candidates here today? While we're waiting for that, since Tina, since you had the benefit of speaking live today, Joe, if you want to give us a 1-minute wrap up too in response to anything, please, would welcome your comments right now as well.
Get myself unmuted there. There we go. Now I got audio too. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today and play in the video. I'm sure all the rest of the candidates will say it's very interesting watching yourself on video. So, one of the things that I would like to say is some of my opponents in this race have been trying to paint me into a corner, put me into a box. Some say I'm an extremist that wants to defund the police. Others say I'm part of the good old boy system and I'm going to be all about the status quo. And I'm here to tell you I am neither. I'm Joe Moses, and that's what I am. I am about common sense, and let's take common sense approaches to how we deal with the issues that law enforcement is facing today. We're going through changes. We have to support not only our communities, but we also have to support our deputies and our staff that work. We are only as good as they are. And that's what I bring. I'm passionate about giving opportunities to people. I'm passionate about making people successful, especially when we talk about the incarcerated in jail and those that are suffering from mental health and substance abuse. And so, to wrap up, that's what I'm about. I'm about making change, but making it in a way that makes sense and that's sustainable going into the future. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you. And thank you for taking the time to be here with us today to also answer questions. So they're coming in now. Let's see. I have a question from Margie K to both sheriff candidates. What would a new sheriff cut in the budget? And I'll let Tina go first, and I'll give you each 1 minute to answer this question. Tina, go ahead.
What would a new sheriff put into the budget?
Cut in the budget.
Oh, cut from the budget. First of all, you have to look at where we're at as a sheriff's department before you start any cutting. There's unintended consequences. For example, if you say you're going to cut the bomb squad, then who's going to respond? Are we going to wait for Santa Clara to respond to an issue? If you look at where we're going to recut, reentry programs for our incarcerated population. If we cut those, then what are we going to do about wraparound services when they get out? So I can't say at this moment what I would cut, because you have to take a very deep look at everything that's going on that you can't can possibly trim from the budget to make an informed decision. And so that's how I've done it over the last 15 years, is when we've come up with these budget crises. And during the pandemic, it happened to many of us. You have to look at what level of service are we going to provide, what's important to the communities, and are there other means that we could finance these things that traditionally we haven't done, either through private public partnerships or through grant funding or whatever's out there. So my answer for that, and I know it's not like I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's how I've done it in the past, looking at these challenges of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And Joe, what would you cut in the sheriff budget?
Well, having intimate knowledge of our budget, there is no room to cut. We went before the Board of Supervisors during this budget season right now, made that argument that there is no place that we can actually make cuts, and the Board of Supervisors have agreed and said, yeah, we can see where we need to continue with what we are with the status quo budget. So making cuts, it's just not, we're going to have to fight long and hard to make sure that there are no cuts in our current budget. But what I do bring to the table is looking outside of that budget, as I described in my video, of looking for other alternative funding sources. So we're not always pulling from the general fund. And that's what I've been doing most of my career, is at least as long as I've been in management, and being able to work within that budget. And when we find parts that need to be supplemented, we go out and find that funding for those supplements, and making sure that, we don't get cut. So thank you.
Thank you. And we also have a question from Jacqueline Simon. It's directed to Joe, so I'll let Joe answer it first, but we'll also let Tina answer the question today too. How important is re-entry services within the Sheriff's Department?
Well, thank you for the question, Jacqueline. It's a huge part of what we should be doing, and we are doing. I'm a big advocate for reentry services. We offer, when I started in the jail 4 years ago, we had a handful of programs that we offered. Today, we have 38 programs we offer, both educational, and I spoke about this in my video, but educational, life skills, and part of that is that reentry services, working in collaboration with our community-based organizations, working with employers. We've got a job fair that's coming up at the jail for those that are incarcerated to meet with employers when they get out. That job fair is coming up next month. Very proud of that. Those are the kinds of reentry services we need to provide, as well as like the medication-assisted treatment program, where we start the treatment inside the jail, but we work collaboratively with that deputy to transition those that are getting out into a community-based organization to continue with their treatment. And it's recidivism. That's how you stop that cycle, is by offering these tools.
Thank you, Joe. And Tina, so the question was, how important is reentry services within the Sheriff's Department?
Reentry services are very, very important for any incarcerated person returning back into society. Both reentry programs and the reentry courts are there to help these citizens return into society after their incarceration. And as a result, if they're successful reentry programs, that reduces recidivism, it improves public safety, and it's cost savings to the taxpayer. With our reentry programs, and again, I talked with the sheriff about them, and there's some very successful ones, but we need to make sure that we're also looking at what is the success and what is our measurement of success for these programs. Because if we have a lot of spinning plates and they're all spinning in different directions, then how effective are they? So I think taking a look at the effectiveness of these reentry programs, I think we all agree that they're important. And I do want to say about the MAP program, I just want to thank the federal government for putting that program together. And it's great to hear that our jail is part of it, as many other agencies are, and our health providers who also push for that program. So that's great. But, when we do look at getting back to the reentry programs, we have to make sure that they are removing or reducing barriers for the incarcerated population, so these individuals become motivated. I think the other thing that we do need to look at is that, we have a lot of good programs, but what are the other county jails doing? What are the best practices? What is the BSSC looking at, saying, hey, these are the ones that we suggest? And the BSSC are really the people, just like post for agencies. BSSC looks at our jails and stuff, and they are
I'm
the
gonna have
leaders to
to-
look at those best practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you. Sorry.
No
Um,
worries.
I'm going to take one more question for our sheriff's candidates, and then there's also one for Annette right after that. But this question certainly is something that Monterey County grapples with. It's a very important question from Barbara Sexton. The Big Sur coastline has a problem with illegal campfires. What specific solutions would you implement to help us with this problem? And we'll start with Joe 1 minute, and then Tina, or actually let's start with Tina 1 minute, and then we'll go to Joe for 1 minute.
So, something that I am just honored to be a part of is that when Big Sur was looking at funding their extra person, their state ranger out there, the Monterey County Police Chiefs Association was a big part of it. And I was one of the leaders there that actually I wrote the letter for the association, but really pushed to support having that extra person there. Because with the illegal fires, right, the fire danger, that's really a big issue in our state with everything going on with the wildfire season, which is now year long. So controlling that is making sure that we have the bodies in place that we can enforce that. Do we use technology to help take a look at it, without impinging on people's rights? Are we sending drones up to do these without, again, dealing with the issues that there's privacy issues involved? Working with our rangers, working with our fire departments, looking at Big Sur Fire, talking with them, working with our community, groups in the area that can be our eyes and ears to help address these issues, and then identifying these campsites that may be causing these illegal fires, educating our tourists that may be coming into the area to camp that causes these fires. I dealt with a similar issue when I was with Los Angeles. We were very successful. It wasn't Big Sur, but it was the Pacific Palisades area that we did implement a program. I won't go into it to really look at these campfires, the illegal campfires. Yeah. That was successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And Joe, the same question, I'll reframe it again, or I'll ask it again. The Big Sur coastline has a problem with illegal campfires. What specific solutions would you implement to help with this problem?
Sure. Yes, it is a problem. Having worked in Big Sur for almost 3 years as a resident deputy, I am well aware of the problems that they have down there. Collaboration. So that's the name of the game. My second priority on my website is collaboration, and that applies in this circumstance. Using all the resources, whether it be like state parks, CHP, the sheriff's office, the Forest Service, just to be out there and fly the flag and make sure that people are made aware of the dangers of having campfires alongside the road. Most of the campfires are tourists that have come down and they're parked in our turnouts and and they build a fire, or they have a little camp stove going on. So education is a big part of it, making sure that social media component is put out, and then working also collaboratively with our board of supervisor members and making sure that the fines that we when we have to give a ticket, that those fines actually mean something and not just $100 or $150 ticket, which is the cost of a campsite in Big Sur today. So making sure that we work with them and increase those fines so we do have a little bit of teeth behind us, and then advertising as much as we possibly can through social media and other means.
Thank you. And we all know this is a huge problem on our coastline, and we all see the effects of it every day as fire season, as you mentioned, Tina, is year round. So that's California for us. So Annette, Kate Daniels, when we asked the sheriffs a question about the budget, Kate Daniels outlined, you're going to have similar budgetary issues working with the County Office of Education. So perhaps you could tell us what you would prioritize in the budget, or what you would cut from the budget, or maybe just your thoughts on the overall budget.
Am I unmuted? I hope
Yes.
so. On the county board's budget, it actually is the county superintendent's budget. It's a little bit different than in school districts, and so it's actually a different format than normal. with the school district. But the budget does come before the County Board of Education for their final overview, and it allows the public to weigh into the budget. It allows that transparency. So I would want to make sure that it is truly transparent. I would also want to look at the priorities of the spending relative to the current goals of the county board and the county superintendent. It is right now, the county offices of education, their budgets are being cut because of more money is being shifted from that area to the school districts themselves. But I think the county Office of Education's budget is key in that they are also doing services for the children that are the most need the most in terms of our community. They're the ones with the most special needs, the migrant workers, again, the homeless population, as I said in my video, and the students who are in the court system. And so making sure that those most vulnerable populations are funded are important to me personally. And also, I'm sure it's part of the goals of the board. That isn't specifically stated for them, but I'm sure that is something that we would want to look at. Also, I would want to make sure that that we stay within our means. If there are cuts to be made, the largest part of their budget, as is everybody on this call, is in the people. And so would we cut people? I would try to keep it as far away from the people as possible, because we are a people business, and it's most important for our services to have the best and brightest serving our children. And
Thank you, Annette. And
thank you.
Just a brief follow-up question
Sure.
from myself too.
Yeah.
How much money, do you happen to know how much money they're going to need to spend on this special election to have this on the June ballot? And then from my understanding, you'll appear on the November ballot as well.
That's correct. The amount that is being added, which was not budgeted from the county board's budget or county office of education's budget, is $324,600 was what was estimated by the elections office. And it's unbudgeted because you don't ever expect someone to pass away. And so you don't budget for that. And that's why they did an appointment process. I was appointed to that position. I was, unfortunately, that position, the appointment was provisional, and it was canceled through a petition process by gathering signatures and forcing this election.
It's a lot of money.
It is.
To not have
3+
budgeted.
teachers.
That's a lot.
Well,
we have about 10 minutes left, maybe a little bit less than 10 minutes left. I don't think we'll get to all the questions today, but what we'll do is I'll make sure that I have note of the questions, and perhaps we could figure out how to get them addressed after this forum today. But I'm going to take Zoe's question, which is directed to the sheriff's candidate. I'm going to shift through the questions and then give everybody a last word as well. But Zoe mentioned that she recently went on a ride along with the San Luis Obispo Police Department and had a long conversation about what it would take to move the needle on homelessness and mental health. And so she's directing her questions to the sheriffs here. Can you both address your thoughts on what it would take and maybe how we could work with state level stakeholders to finally try to move the needle on homelessness? So I'm going to let Joe go first and give him 1 minute, and then give Tina 1 minute. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Zoe. That's a great question. It's something that's the #1 priority for my campaign, is dealing with mental health and taking an actual meaningful action to deal with mental health, which I think is the basis of a lot of our homelessness and our substance abuse issues. And so we have an opportunity in Monterey County to build a behavioral health center, to fill that gap that we currently have in our county, where either people are being taken with a mental health crisis or being taken to jail or to the hospital and just cycling through those systems. We need to have a place where we can take people to get them on their medications, get the correct counseling that they need to start dealing with those underlying issues before they're of a sound mind to be able to transition into some of those transitional housing that we are now starting to provide in this county. So by filling that gap, and working with behavioral health and our community-based organizations and state funding and making sure that we fill that gap. We have that opportunity now, and I'm already starting to work on that. So that's how you take that bite out of the homelessness and the substance abuse issues that we're dealing with and start moving that needle.
Thank you. And Tina, again, if you could, in 1 minute, address homelessness.
Again, homelessness is a very, very complex issue. We are already moving the needle a little bit here in our county, and that has to do with we need to make sure that we house the unhoused population, that we understand the dynamics of why they're unhoused. Part of it is mental illness, part of it is the economy, part of it is drug use, and there are state programs that are being put into place. Again, they're unfunded, such as the CARE program that the governor has announced, but they haven't worked out the details, and it continues to be unfunded. And that's where we can force folks to take their medication. There's great partnerships already going on here in the county. I've been blessed to be part of those, working groups dealing with this issue. And so we just have to keep chipping away at it. And we have to educate the public about the things that do work or don't work when it comes to our unhoused population. That's in a nutshell. Again, very complex. I've had some successes over the years with this, but this is an issue that's been going on now in my career, that's been a top issue for the last 20 years.
Wonderful. Thank you. It is a very complex issue. It's something that we pay a lot of attention to, and something that we're working on as a county to address. Very important, but very complex. So there are a couple questions left. I think what I'm going to do is there's a really important question about fentanyl that I want to ask the sheriff candidates, and then I'll let them wrap up for 1 minute, and then Annette, I'll let you have the last word of the candidates today and wrap up with 1 minute as well. So
Nicole, sorry to interrupt, but let's ask Annette the fentanyl question as well. I think
let's ask Annette.
Very appropriate for schools.
Absolutely. Well, it actually was brought up recently at a Pacific Grove Unified School District town hall. So yes, we can. This unfortunately applies to everybody here. So good thought, Kate. So we're going to start with Tina on this one. The question was, we recently had a fentanyl information town hall at PG Unified School District. We had over 200 in attendance. A specific question for both candidates: what specific programs can you recommend for school districts to implement to try and reduce drug use and harm for our students and community? So Tina, I'll give you 1 minute.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Dr. Reb Close and Casey Glover, who have been the leaders in fentanyl reduction in our county. And it's through an abuse program. It's through our local hospital. It includes a lot of our local police agencies. I would ask that the schools join this initiative. They are the people that provided the Narcan training to all the different organizations that now carry Narcan. I can tell you, as the sheriff, I'm going to collaborate. The reason why there was a couple reasons, but I made sure to put out a press release. I contacted all my other fellow chiefs to jump on board this thing. And as a result, that was a well-attended town hall meeting. And I showed up just to show my support for Dr. Close and Dr. Glover on their campaign to fight fentanyl abuse. It's incumbent upon all of us, again, to work on collaboration on looking at that issue, on making sure that our agencies are mapping the overdoses so we know where the populations are getting hit. Unfortunately, what we do know about fentanyl overdoses and deaths among our youth is that they doubled during the pandemic years, and the numbers keep going up. So if somebody's asking what to get involved in, I would say my first recommendation is to become part of this coalition that is trying to reduce harm to our communities and death among our youth.
Thank you. And Joe, I'll let you respond to that, and then I'll let Annette respond to that, and then we'll go from there.
Great. Well, you know, it's a large problem. Okay, we've been facing this for a long time. We saw it very early on in the jail with fentanyl overdoses. Luckily, we were prepared for it and had the Narcan and had trained staff, and we were able to save quite a few lives in the custody situation. And you know, kudos again. I'll also shout out Dr. Close. Worked very closely with her to get this MAT program started in the jail. But it comes down, when we're talking about our youth, it comes down to education, making sure that our youth start hearing about the effects of drug abuse, of the things that can happen to you whenever you take a handful of pills and you don't know what they are. And that education with the schools, like I said, collaboratively working together. And I also say that the enforcement needs to be a part of it too. Getting our task forces put together so that we can combat the supply chain. And it's not to solve all, but I think we do need to take some proactive action to try to put some of these criminals that are selling these drugs to our kids in the place that they need to be. And so that part, education, and then starting to look at doing our enforcement as well. I think those are the two things that we really need to focus on. Thank you.
And then Annette, the same question. What specific programs can you recommend for school districts to implement to try to reduce drug use and harm for our students and community?
Okay, thank you so much. Great question for me. In Carmel, what worked for us was we had, and it sounds odd, but drug sniffing dogs on our campuses to make sure that our campuses were safe for our students. They were only allowed to do, you can't have them sniff on individual students, but in our parking lots, we were allowed to do that, and in the lockers. And that helped us keep the drugs off of campus. So that's a one that's really important for students and on our safe campuses. The other one that has worked really well for Carmel was to do a voluntary drug testing program where parents and students together chose to get their own selves. The students would randomly be drug tested. The parents had to agree, and the students as well. And the results did not come to the school district. So there was no, no punishment for this by the school district. It went to the parents, so that then kids could say, I'm in the drug testing program, I can't be on drugs. So when their pals, their friends wanted them to do that, that was a really good way for them to say no. I mean, it's not just say no, it's just say no because I'm going to get in big trouble. And that was something that's been really successful for us. Our parents have been really supportive, and so are the kids actually liked it. And when you have students asking for something, you do that. And it worked.
Thank you. And thank you, Carolyn, for asking the question. It's such, it's hard for me to even talk about as a mom of a young kid that, we have to have these conversations with our children. I don't know, it just gets me choked up every time it comes up, but it's so important that we address it. And thank you to all of our candidates for addressing that question. I'm going to allow each candidate just a 1-minute wrap up. Again, we're recording the questions that we didn't get to today, and we'll try to figure out how to get those to the candidates to get them answered for you. But going to start with Tina. If you just want to give us a 1-minute wrap up today, that would be fantastic. And I'm going to again apologize for the technical difficulties we have and remind everyone that this will be posted on our website.
Thank you. Again, I just want to remind people who are watching, I'm Tina Nieto. I'm a candidate for your Monterey County Sheriff. I do believe with new accountable leadership, we can make Monterey County safer for everyone. Throughout my 33-year career, I've been called on to take over struggling law enforcement organizations where I've helped restore trust, brought diverse interests together, and reduce crime and homelessness through true community policing. as a trusted police chief and law enforcement professional or executive for the last 15 years. I've turned around departments that were struggling with both recruitment and retention and helped reduce violent crime and property crimes every year that I've been the leader in those areas. I began my career with the Los Angeles Police Department and became the first ever Latina police captain and helped reduce crime and other things that we measured by record levels. And became national models for other agencies throughout the nation. I come from a large working class Hispanic family, and so I also know the pain of racial profiling. But I'm also very thankful to law enforcement for the opportunities that it's given me and my family. And so I come with a very broad understanding of policing from multiple perspectives, and I believe I can help bring us together. As your next sheriff, I will improve communication and collaboration. I plan to restore accountability, launch an internal efficiency audit, improve responsiveness to address quality of life issues, and prioritize mental health and homeless services to help reduce recidivism among our incarcerated population. Again, I'm asking for your group to endorse me for sheriff this year, and I appreciate the time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And Joe, 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. I think that we've all heard the saying that don't pass judgment on somebody unless you've walked in their shoes. And I think that's particularly applicable here in this particular race. I've walked the hall, especially in the Monterey County Jail, where that's over half of our budget and our workforce is assigned to. So I've walked those halls. I've managed that jail for the last 4 years. I understand what it takes to create changes, and we have made a lot of changes in the jail. We've gone in the last 4 years, we've gone from a 70% compliance rate with our health and welfare checks to over 95% compliant today. And we continue to make these strides and to learn from our mistakes. We do make mistakes. We falter sometimes. How you deal with that, how you go back, pick yourself back up and implement the changes that are needed to make it better is what's really important here. Change is difficult, and it's hard for our staff to go through the changes that we're going through right now, especially with some of the staffing shortages we're facing, and supporting them to go through those changes. And it was inferred that I have my head buried in the sand. That is not the case. I know exactly what it takes and what we need to do to continue forward into the future. So I'm looking to this group for your endorsement. I appreciate you listening to me today, and I look forward to any questions you might have. You can reach me on my website at joemosesforsheriff.com and email me, and I'd be more than happy to answer or have any conversations that any of you would like to have before the election. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll be sure to post that information as well to make sure that we can, anyone can get in contact with any of the candidates today. And then Annette, we're going to let you have the last word here today. Just a 1 minute wrap up.
Thanks so much. My name is Annette Yestek, and I'm running for the Monterey County Board of Education, Trustee Area 1. It covers all of Carmel Unified, Pacific Grove Unified, Big Sur Unified, and about half of the city of Monterey, which is part of MPUSD. I've worked in public finance since 1983 on bond and other types of financing and budgets for local governments, including school districts. I'm also an instructor for the California School Boards Association, teaching over 1,000 school district trustees and superintendents how to improve in the area of governance. Most importantly, I was on the Carmel School Board for 27 years, first elected in '93 and serving through 2020. During my tenure, Carmel Unified became one of the best performing districts in the state of California, and it remains so now. I was able to help Carmel, and I'd like to help at the county level. I'd appreciate your support. Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you, Annette. Thank you. And thank you, Tina. And thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Again, we're going to get this posted for everybody, and we're also happy to promote other organizations who are doing candidate forums throughout the county. So I think ballots drop on May 9th, and we hope that this helps you make your decision for who you're going to vote for. And yeah, I think that would be it for us today. So again, thank you so much for joining the Democratic Women of Monterey County's Sheriff Candidate Forum and Bonus Forum with Annette Yee Steck.
Is
Thank
there
you so
any
much, everyone.
information, Nicole, I'm sorry, is there any information they need to know looking out in their inboxes? Or maybe you just covered this and I got distracted for the ballots.
We will be sending out information about our the Monterey, the DWMC ballot shortly. You
Perfect.
should be seeing something in your inboxes soon.
Excellent, thank you.
And just on that note, I believe they'll be going out on the 23rd, and we will be having a very, very quick turnaround time on the ballot, probably only about 2 to 3 days. So as Kate and Nicole said, please be on the lookout for that. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day.